you guys, this is gonna be a different video because things have been kind of changing for me. A lot of you guys do not follow me on Instagram, but I believe it was last week God told me to take a fast from Instagram, and then I got back on, and then he spoke again. He was like, no, this time you're gonna be off, like you're permanently getting off of Instagram. And for the backstory of Instagram, when I was in my wilderness season for 2 years, I used Instagram as a tool for me to, of course, preach the gospel and to basically share my experiences with God, share how God speaks to me, how I hear from God, the supernatural things God has done with me, and just basically open up that conversation to people of you can hear God in different ways. You know, we were taught to pray, we were taught to read our Bible, but God can use His creation to speak to us. I've talked about on my channel how God used a bird to relay a message to me. If you scroll down, I've talked about, well, I didn't talk about it. There was a video on my channel where there was a rainbow on my floor. So I've used my social media to really just open up people's eyes to see God in a different way. So me believing that Instagram was going to be my story and how God wanted to use that for me for the rest of my life. You know, when God told me, no, I need you off, like it was kind of like a okay, because for me, I'm really not a social media person. All of my close friends are not social media people, and I'm so blessed and so thankful to have friends like that, because for me, like, I just believe we as people need to smell the roses again. I feel like we're so quick to pick up our phones and record every moment of our lives to show people that we've done it, but we forgot to just capture the moment with our minds. And so, you know, for me, I've just never been a social media kind of person because I'm not the kind of person that needs someone to look at me and to comment on my stuff and to like my stuff. I've just never been into social media. But God has used so many amazing things on social media to bless me with. And with YouTube recently, I noticed that, you know, normally like God would give me a word, and I will tell you guys whatever God wants me to tell you guys. But I was in front of the camera the other day, and I just didn't want to film nothing. I just didn't want to get on camera, and God didn't speak to me. He did not speak to me, and I was like, that's weird, because normally God would give me a word and then I'll come on here and tell you guys the word. But I want to talk about a new chapter, and not being afraid to close doors that God is telling you to close, because sometimes we're so comfortable with the norm, and when God tells us to do something different, it's scary. It's so scary. But let me tell you, your comfort zone is a beautiful place, but it's not meant for you to stay there. And if God is telling you to relocate, if He's telling you to get off something, if He's telling you to give someone a chance, you have to trust God's judgment, because we might not understand the plan, but God does. God is Alpha and Omega. He is the beginning, the middle, and the end. He knows the beginning to the last. God knows every detail of your life. So it is so important for us to not attach ourselves to certain things, because God can take it away from us. Like, I know that firsthand, that God can give you something and then just take it from you, or say, no, this is not the path I no longer want you to go down. But we have to be okay with embracing the new, because it is not meant for us to stay in the old place. I mean, that's biblical. That's spiritual law. There's a verse about you can't put new wine into old wineskin, because the skin will burst. And that speaks to our lives. We cannot force an old thing into a new creation, because it's going to disturb the new thing that's happening. And a lot of times, like, we are afraid of the new. We are afraid of change. We are afraid of adapting to new things and letting go of old things because the old is comfortable and we have adjusted to the old. And when God says, okay, now I want you to take on that new territory, it's scary. But remember that God is not a God of fear. He is a God of love. So if it scares you, go to God. If it's something that's hard for you to let go, go to God. But if you feel a shift happening in your life right now, or you feel like God is preparing you for something new and you are afraid of it, you have to let that fear go because it's going to happen. When God speaks something into our lives, it is going to happen whether we like it or not. But we have to go into that new thing with force and say, God, this scares me, but I know you will be with me. And you gotta let go of that fear of what could happen, what could not happen. Just embrace the new, embrace what God is doing because this is a new year, of course, but whenever God is shifting you, sometimes the shift is unfamiliar. It is. Sometimes it's scary. Sometimes, you need help. And for me, like I had to learn how to let go and say, you know what, maybe social media is not a part of my story. Maybe something else is a part of my story, which is why I was saying don't hold on to something if you don't know if this is going to be permanent, because I've learned throughout this journey that something could be here 1 minute and then it can change the next minute, or God would take it the next minute, and then you're like, whoa, because we don't understand the plan of God. It's biblical. There's some things that God keeps to himself, because if we knew everything, if we knew what was going to happen before it happened, some of the things we would not go through with it. Especially if we knew that trials was going to take place, we'd be like, oh no. So if I were to get this thing and a trial is going to happen, no, I'm going to leave it right then and there. So there are certain parts of our story that God keeps to ourselves. So there might be a season where you have something and then there's a season where you don't have it. But do not be afraid of change, because it is not the trial that we rejoice, it is the change in character that we are rejoicing for. God will never do something and it is in vain. God will never do something and it will not benefit us or other people. So do not be afraid of change. Embrace change. Embrace this new chapter of your life. I know it's scary. I know it's hard. I know it's hard for you to wrap around certain things, but be open-minded to God, because God is a God where you cannot honestly predict what he's gonna do. He tells you little bits and pieces and parts, but sometimes it takes years for the whole picture to be unraveled. And another thing I want to say is that God might prophesy something to you and God might speak something over you, but it does not mean you're gonna walk straight into your calling. You have to think about David. When David was anointed to be king, he went straight to the field. He went back to the field. And there's gonna be parts of your story where you're gonna feel like, wait a minute, I'm called to be a pastor. I'm called to be an evangelist, and you have me doing this? No, it's a part of your story. And it's so important to not attach yourselves to certain things, because that might only serve you for a season. And it is okay. It is okay. It is okay. Learn to follow God. Learn to take heed to God's instructions and learn how to let go. Because some things cannot come with you. Some things cannot go with you into the new. And sometimes God takes away things for a certain season. Sometimes with people, God might take somebody out of your life for a season to grow you and to grow that person and to bring you guys back together. So there's going to be times where God is going to separate you from something temporarily, and sometimes God will separate you from something permanently. But in both situations, God will tell you what it is. But yeah, go head forth, head first into the new. And don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid of just shifting with God and just saying, God, you know what? I don't understand the plan, but I understand you. And I understand that you would not withhold a good thing from me. And if you are telling me to go through this door, I'm going to go through this door. And unfortunately, some doors can lead to very bad things, even though God opened that door. But if a very bad thing happened, I know that God is going to use that situation to change me and to change my character. And there's doors that are good doors, meaning that a huge blessing is on the other side of that door. And God can still use that to teach me and to humble me and to help me to appreciate the beauty of God. But do not be afraid of this shift. Do not be afraid of change. Do not be afraid of the new thing that God wants to do in your life. Isaiah 43:19. God is doing a new thing, declares the Lord. He is making a way in the wilderness. He is making rivers in the desert. That was a verse that God would always tell me. The beginning of 2019, middle of 2019, in the beginning of 2020, mid 2020, and kind of towards the end of 2020, that when God does a new thing, it will be a good thing. It will be a beautiful thing. It will be a thing where you're going to be like, God, I just thank you that I was just not afraid to go through this door. Even though this door was frightening for me, I'm going to experience this new thing. So do not be afraid of the shift. If you keep hearing about shifts and changes happening in your life and you see that God is about to do something, don't be afraid of it. Go straight forward. Listen to everything that God is telling you to do and focus on timing. Do not do something outside of God's timing. Do not do something before God's timing. How I learned that it is the right time for me to do something is that God would aggressively tell you, okay, this is it, this is it, this is it, this is it. It will not leave you alone. God is very aggressive whenever He wants us to do something. So you will know when is your time to actually execute the plan God has for your life. And you will know when God wants you to just wait. And I've learned that when God doesn't say anything about it, it's His way of saying, no, we're not focusing on that right now. I've told you the instructions, but I don't want you to do it in this season. And that was something else that I've learned the hard way. So heed to God's instructions on what it is that you feel the Lord is telling you to do. But anyway, embrace the new, embrace the changes with an open arm, with love, with a big old smile on your face, and just know that God's got you. He is with you. He will not abandon you. He will lead you down the path, and He will make sure that your path is so narrow. But the narrow path is the best path. It's going to lead you to heaven. So I hope you guys have a blessed day. Hope you guys have a good February. And I just pray that you really seek the Lord. You really, really seek the Lord. Don't just ask God for certain things. Ask Him and then seek Him. Matthew 7:7. Ask, seek, find, and the door shall be open unto you. So don't just ask God a question. Once you ask God the question, then seek Him for the answer. You fast. You pray fervently. If I'm saying the word right, fervently, and you really just become desperate. You become desperate to receive an answer from the Lord. But anyway, I hope you guys have a good day and stay blessed. Bye.